This is one of my favorite set. I was working one of my favorite beauty set I have been working, and this image is quite specific. The expression of this image, the expression of the model is a little bit different than you would expect from these others. It's quite unusual, but this is what I really like. And what I do also like, this is just the perfect frame you want to have for the beauty image. Possible I might crop this later for a little different, but we'll do this at the end. Let's have a look how perfect the model face is exposed over here. So that's why I really work on this image. And of course I will be doing the raw processing in Capture One, one of my favorite raw processing software, if not my favorite. And I will start from this exposure panel. So I won't be changing exposure and brightness because I believe it's really perfect on this image. So there's no need to change such details, but I just want to knock down a little bit of the highlights. It won't change much of this image, but I'm actually improving the highlights later in Photoshop, so I feel it's quite a good idea to knock this down a little bit if we know that we're going to improve this later. And second of all, we're going to bring more details out of the highlights, so it will be easier for us to retouch. And then maybe shadows, but what I see of the shadows here, they are not that strong. So from shadows, maybe just few points, so a little bit over here, I can see all of the details, but there's no need to drag them a lot because there's no dark shadows on this image. So I really like the way it is, so I won't be actually bringing more of the shadows. The image looks well as it is. After I finish with this exposure panel and sorting out the highlights and shadows for my raw image, I would jump into the local adjustments. I always jump into local adjustments if I need this, but for this image I won't be creating new layers for local adjustments. I will be just working with this color editor and in advanced panel. What I want to do, I want to pick some universal background color. Maybe here I'm going to choose few samples. As you can see, it's between 240 up to 280. So I want to really choose something quite universal, maybe around here, this purple color. And what I want to get, because as you can see, we have hue for the background 260. Let me check the skin tone. It's perfect 35, which means the perfect background for this image would be 215, maybe 220, around that 225. So what it says to me, I would like to actually try to knock down the hue for this image, not fully, and improve some of the saturation. So I'm getting into this, and this is closer to what I want. Let's pick one more and also knock down the hue, but better be careful because as you can see, we can actually with the saturation do a lot of discoloration. So I want to be careful with saturation. I prefer to do this maybe in Photoshop. So this background got actually a little bluish. Don't want to go too high. It's still not exactly the amount of the hue that I would wish to, but it doesn't really matter. It will be sorted, I believe. And now, if it looks already a little bit nicer with the background color, I would go to the color balance. And I love this color balance in Capture One because it gives you really perfect opportunity to work separately for shadows and highlights. So for this image, I could really nicely go with the blue shadows. As you can see, it's really strong. And for highlights, I would go opposite with like hue 35. It would be probably like 90, 180. So if here is 90, the 35 will be probably around here, I believe. So go with this. Yeah, we got a little bit of the artificial color, so I think it's just too much of the blue shadow. A little less than this, and a little less of the highlight. And this is really the color I love. I would go back to advanced color editor, and I would like to try to do a little bit more with this desaturated area over here. I believe I sorted this right now. A little bit down. And this looks really like the perfect image I want to start working with. I'm just afraid that the color balance I said could be too strong, but it's not really that strong. Strongly believe. And this is just perfect start to work with. Don't want to go darker with it. Even darker looks nice, but let's go with what we decided to go with, the perfect match. I think this is the perfect match for the image. We go here. I've changed this, and after I change this, I don't like this as much as I planned to. So around this, okay, now I got back to the color I really like. Just need to do a little bit more work on these areas that seems to be a little desaturated, but this is not that great idea because I'm affecting the shadows over here. So I think that would be okay on this. So yeah, this is pretty much done. The other thing I could work a little bit is a skin tone. I'm going to use eyedropper for the skin tone, and it's perfect around 35. So we can actually match the hue if we want to change the hue into a more reddish or more yellowish, though I believe hue is just perfect. So one thing I would actually like to go with tiny drop and less of the saturation, and that would be my starting point. I really love where it is at the moment. So this is the raw conversion I would be doing. The raw conversion I would go to. I want to do a little less of the blue color. I have time in Photoshop to work with blue color. I don't want to do everything now in Capture One, so that will be a little soften, and that will be my starting point in Photoshop. So just to go to Photoshop, I'm going to Output, and as a destination, of course I need to find the destination where I'm working on this, and this will be like, for me, retouching course Misha, and set as an output folder. And this will be image name. Usually I keep output folder as a separate from my raw images to easier distinguish, but I'm setting TIFF file, so I will be able to distinguish raw from TIFF, and after this I create a separate file. But yeah, set destination folder. The best is to create your separate destination folder for processed images. I have to say that even if I don't have it here. And the output naming, the best is to keep the same image name, so later after you finish retouching and you send over to people, you will not get confusion which image is which, because you have image name, so you know this is the same image that you are working as a raw. So then hit process, and it will process into TIFF file, and we will be ready to start working in Photoshop.